Today, we're going on an adventure in the world of Pokemon Blue. But there's a twist. We're going to be playing a randomizer, where every item and Pokemon is randomized. But that's not all. I've decided to take on this challenge with only one Pokemon, Rhydon. Now, Rhydon may not be the most popular or powerful Pokemon out there, but with a little luck and strategy, I'm determined to beat the game with only my trusty Rhydon by my side. It won't be easy though. Rhydon has several weaknesses and could easily be taken down at any point. But that's what makes this challenge so exciting. I'll need to rely on my wits and a little bit of luck to make it through each battle, catch some new Pokemon for HM use, and find items that will help me along my journey. Will I be able to beat the Elite Four with only a single Rhydon as my Pokemon? Join me as I do this epic adventure through the world of Pokemon Blue and find out. Before we dive into the game, let's get familiar with our main Pokemon, Rhydon. As I mentioned earlier, Rhydon may not be the most powerful Pokemon out there, but with the right moves and strategy, we can make it work. But we need to be aware of Rhydon's weaknesses. Rhydon has a 4x weakness to both water and grass moves, which means that any strong water or grass type Pokemon could easily take us down with just a single hit. So we need to be very careful and safe before most battles with any trainer, especially since Rhydon isn't very fast. So these Pokemon might even be able to beat us before we even get the battle started, like a Starmie. Now, the moves we get in the game could make or break the challenge. But because the nature of the randomizer, we won't know exactly where the moves are. Moves such as Body Slam, Earthquake, or Res could be game changers for us. So we need to explore every nook and cranny of the game and hope we get lucky with our moveset. This run will not be easy, and we will be facing a lot of difficulties along the way. But I'm up for the challenge, and I hope you are too. So let's jump into the game and see how far we can get with our trusty Rhydon. To get things started, we grab Rhydon from Professor Oak using the Universal Pokemon Randomizer and name it Anguirus, which is a reference to this terrifying beast that Godzilla had to battle in the movies. Meanwhile, the rival has now chosen his Pokemon, and it's Rapidash, which is going to be great for us once we eventually get either a rock or a ground move. But for now, all we have is Stomp. Luckily for us, Stomp is more than enough to get ourselves the victory. Now, in this randomizer, there's not a lot you can do at the beginning. Basically, until you get to Cerulean City, you pretty much have to go on the same path. Even if you manage to get cut at the beginning of the game, you couldn't even use it. Cerulean Badge is required to use cut. In fact, Brock's Badge only allows you to use Flash. But that's a long way from now. We should probably focus on the task at hand, which, for the start of the game, is to deliver Oak's Parcel. Now that Oak's Parcel has been completed, we can move forward. However, there is one thing we can do before we do any of that. We can actually go ahead and talk to Blue's sister, who will give us usually the town map. However, today she manages to give us the Helix fossil. Fantastic. Great start. A Pokemon like Rhydon is going to have troubles in a lot of parts of the game. And mostly this is because it has two 4x weaknesses and it has low speed. So we probably do want to consider getting some extra training in. But even the training isn't going to be easy. But I decided that battling the optional rival battle would be a great start to the run. It is certainly a risk because his Pokemon are a higher level than mine. Luckily, the Pokemon that he managed to get was a Caterpie. And as you could probably imagine, Caterpie is one of the weakest Pokemon in the game. And Rapidash is not able to keep up with us yet, especially because we have a fire resistance. Now we only have one battle standing between us and Brock, and it's this bug catcher that usually has a level 9 Weedle. However, today, that Pokemon is a level 9 Rattata, which doesn't manage to stand much of a chance against our Stomp attacks. Fresh off a win and thinking we need just a little bit extra training, I decide to battle the junior trainer that's guarding Brock's gym. However, his first Pokemon is a Poliwrath, and you know what that means. First reset of the run. Luckily, he's very skippable, and we can go ahead and battle Brock next, who hopefully does not have a water type. Thankfully, his first Pokemon is Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn, we probably do not have a very good move for. However, all it has is Horn Attack, and our defense is actually one of the greatest things about Rhydon, so we should be able to survive hits. Unfortunately, we are level 10, his level 12, and we do take a little too many hits. So by the time we move on to the next Pokemon, which happens to be Farfetch'd, our HP is down to 14. Luckily, Farfetch'd doesn't have any good moves against us. Or so I thought. But that's the interesting thing about this randomizer. Even though the Pokemon are random, the gym leader's ace is still going to have its signature move. So it may be a little weird for some Pokemon. However, just about every single Pokemon can learn Bide, so it isn't unusual that Farfetch'd can use Bide. Anyways, on the next attempt, we soften up Rhyhorn just a little bit with 2 Tail Whips, and that's all we need to have a little bit extra HP going into Farfetch'd. Plus, this time Farfetch'd decides not to use Bide, allowing us to get enough turns in to take it down with a Stomp. Now, it feels great to have our first badge under our belt, especially when we had seen a strong Pokemon like Poliwrath and we were able to avoid it by walking around the trainer. However, what happens when a trainer is mandatory that has a move that we can't avoid? Well, hopefully that situation will not happen, but we do have a handful of trainers that are in our way before we can make it to Mount Moon. Unfortunately, this guy is in front of us. This youngster is sporting a Poliwag that only knows Bubble and is able to take us down in 2 hits. This battle was quite a disappointment. Even though we did go into this battle at half of our regular amount of HP, it is going to be a problem coming up because water types are going to be very plentiful here in Kanto. Plus, he still has a second Pokemon we don't even know about. So I do 2 levels of training and come back with full HP. It's immediately clear that this was the right decision, as we're then able to take down Poliwag in 2 hits, move on to Marowak, which surprisingly does not do very well, even though it has quite the type advantage. Now, seeing as this is my first randomizer run, it's in my best interest to try and pick up every single item that I know about. And it's especially important that I make sure to pick up every TM, because these TMs will make or break the run. Now, the first thing I can do upon entering Mount Moon is head to the left and check where Water Gun usually is, and today that move is Solar Beam. Now, in order to keep this video somewhat brief, I'm not going to mention every single item that I managed to pick up, but I will mention most of the TMs, as they're very important in this run. Now, for those of you who are very familiar with Kanto, you probably know that Mount Moon has one more TM. The TM usually is Mega Punch. However, today, this TM is Body Slam. Yeah, that's right, you heard me. One of the most important moves that we could possibly get. Quite literally the best move that we could possibly get for Rhydon that's a normal type move. So giddy with excitement after getting this move, I immediately teach it, and then, as a congratulations, I decide to battle the Rocket to the right of me. The Rocket's first Pokemon turns out to be a Cloyster. So, as you can probably imagine, after trying out a Body Slam and doing just about half, Cloyster then uses Clamp and takes us down in 1 hit. But on the bright side, I did manage to save, and we can just ignore this guy. Moving on through Mount Moon, we now have to run into a decision, and as you can probably imagine, this decision could end up being game-breaking. Normally, the choice between the Helix and the Dome Fossil are now changed. The choices appear to be the Old Rod and the Bicycle. Well, the choice is pretty obvious. However, I just want to make it well known that because this is a game-breaking decision, the randomizer has a little something called logic. And logic allows for the game to be beaten, no matter what. So, these choices are always going to be between 2 items that are not essential to beating the game. However, as you can probably imagine, because we picked up the Bicycle, they can be extremely useful, just not required to beat the game. On our way outside of Mount Moon, I make sure to check where the Whirlwind TM is. Today, it's Takedown, which would have been a pretty good move if I had not already gotten Body Slam. Now that we're in Cerulean, there is one thing we can check. Even though we can't get it, we can see what it is, and that's the Bicycle. Even though we don't have the Bicycle voucher, we can check what the Bicycle has been switched to. It'll still be $1 million, and we still can't get it. However, it's the item binder, so we don't really need it. So if we do find the Bicycle voucher, we don't even need to return to get it. Since Brock's Pokemon had Bide, Misty's is probably going to have Bubble Beam. So we're going to head over and battle the rival next. Every member of the rival's team, except for his starter, is going to change every single battle. This time, he has Alakazam. which sucks. Luckily, it just uses a disable and we're able to get through. And from here, he just doesn't have the team that's going to be able to keep up with our Rhydon. But he might eventually get another difficult to deal with Pokemon. At this point in the run, we are a tiny bit over level, so it's no surprise that we are able to beat all of the Pokemon here on Nugget Bridge rather easily. And once we get to the top, we can then check where the Thunder TM usually is. And today, it's TM 40, Skull Bash, which normally not so good of a move. Probably wouldn't even bother using it over Stomp. However, that's not the only TM that's on this route. As you guys probably know, if you can manage to battle 2 trainers in a row, you can walk behind one of the trainers and get Seismic Toss. Today, Seismic Toss is Earthquake. Yeah, you heard me right, the second move we were looking for. So our moveset is essentially complete for quite some time. So things are looking well for Rhydon, especially now that we have a non-normal move to use against ghost types. Not too long after getting Earthquake, we then wind up getting to Bill's house, who then, after helping him out, gives us the Pokeflute. I know, things are definitely opening up, as we now have a place where we can go once we reach Vermilion. But before we get to Vermilion, of course, we need to talk to Misty. Now, Misty got the short end of the randomizer stick by getting a Bulbasaur. Luckily for her, Bulbasaur could have taken down our Pokemon if it were faster. Luckily, we had an advantage. With 2 badges in hand, we can now set our sights on Surge, or so you think, because now we don't have Cut. What are we going to do without Cut? Well, first off, we're going to arrive at Vermilion City. While in Vermilion City, you can then head left to this house where you can talk to the old man. The old man usually gives us the old rod. However, today he gives us Fly. But that's not the only thing to do in Vermilion City. You can talk to the Pokemon fan, who usually gives you the bicycle voucher. However, today he gives us the Dome Fossil. That's fine. Not every item can be a winner. Now, the randomizer is actually quite nice to us. He changes the amount of Pokemon that the aids require you to catch to 6 and 12. So when we talk to this aid after we've caught our 12th Pokemon, he then gives us the SSN ticket. And seeing as this was my first randomizer playthrough, I didn't exactly make the greatest decisions because I could have definitely done a few more checks before leaving Vermilion. But I decide that we're going to go ahead and get past the Snorlax. Today, the Snorlax is an Onix, which is going to go down to an easy Earthquake. So we can go ahead and move on to Lavender Town and decide to skip Rock Tunnel, which is pretty cool and all. Not one to skip out on a fight, I decide to battle the rival anyways. Since we don't have the Silph Scope, we actually can't progress any further, but I just wanted to see how my team went up against his. Turns out, he actually did keep that Caterpie from earlier and evolved it into a Butterfree. Unfortunately for him, Butterfree just does not have the strongest defenses. However, he does make up for the differences with status conditioning moves, like putting us to sleep and using Supersonic. Unfortunately for him, that just did not work out, as we were able to get past everything and take down both Butterfree and Golduck, moving on to Machamp. However, it's short-lived as we managed to hit ourselves twice in a row before then taking down Machamp with an Earthquake, as he then throws out a Golem, which goes down to the same fate, taking us to his last Pokemon, Rapidash, which can't survive an Earthquake either. Now, the randomizer does affect the game in a few ways. However, I'm not going to go over all of the ways, but one of the ways is that it adds the T to the game, so you can't just give the guard a freshwater and move on to Saffron City. No. That would be too easy. But now, when we arrive to Celadon City, there's an extra place to check where the T could be, and it won't be the T, I can tell you that. But once we do get there, it turns out that this is the card key, which is a pretty good item once we do eventually get into Saffron. The T isn't the only item you can pick up in Celadon City. Some of you may have forgotten, because it's not a very well-known item. However, we can pick up the coin case, which just happens to be the lift key. With the lift key in hand, and us already being in Celadon City, it seems like a match made in heaven that we just go ahead and take on the Rockets. In fact, there is 2 items we can pick up here, the lift key and the Silph Scope. But before we get to that, there is one more thing I want to do in Celadon City. Now, one of the things that I haven't mentioned up to this point is, what if a character in the game gives you an item? Well, if it's a key item, it's going to be randomized. However, if it's a TM, it's going to be the same. So with that in mind, we can go to the Celadon Mart and trade a Soda Pop for Rock Slide, giving us an extra stab move and overall better type coverage against ice, flying, and bug types that I didn't have before. And that'll allow me to take down the rockets in the rocket hideout much easier than it was before. Which takes us to the rocket in the middle of the hideout that gives you the lift key typically. However, today he gives us the coin case. But since we have the lift key, our visit to the rocket hideout is not in vain, as we can then make our way towards Giovanni and fight just a few trainers that are standing in our way before we can battle Giovanni himself. Once Giovanni has been defeated, we can then pick up the last item that he's going to drop here. This key item is Strength. As a move, Strength is not going to be that useful. However, it is required to beat the game, as we do need to move some boulders when we do eventually make it to Victory Road. But as far as progressing in the game, it's not going to be that useful. However, we do still have some avenues of places we can check. For starters, we can head west of Celadon and use the Pokeflute we managed to get from Bill to move the Snorlax. The Snorlax happens to be a Tentacruel, which doesn't seem to want to get out of the way, and because it's faster than us, it can make sure that we don't escape. Luckily, on our next attempt to escape, we do get away safely. We can make sure not to battle anybody on Cycling Road, and when we arrive to Fuchsia, we can head directly to the Safari Zone where we can pick up 2 more checks at the end. The first one being the Gold Teeth usually. However, today it's the town map, and the next one we can talk to the man at the end of the Safari Zone who gives us the Gold Teeth. Not overly useful. However, because we're already in Fuchsia City, we might as well give the gold teeth to the man who's missing his teeth. The item he manages to give us is the Good Rod, which is not going to be too helpful for us to move on. However, there are still things we can do in the city, like battle Koga, who allows the usage of Surf once defeated. We don't have Surf yet, but that'll be pretty useful when the time comes. Koga then starts off with a Mr. Mime, which isn't too bad as it sets up a useless light screen against our physical moves. But that brings us to Blastoise, which uses a Withdraw, which is great for us, followed by another Withdraw. However, Bubble manages to absolutely wreck us. Thanks to an X attack though, we're able to move on to Primeape. Primeape then uses Seismic Toss, which is pretty good, but it's not going to be enough to stop us. Unfortunately, Venomoth then outspeeds and sets us to sleep as it manages to take us down with 3 Leech Lives. Seeing as we're under-leveled and everything went right during that battle, there's just no reason to move on. The next battle would just go even worse, as most likely Blastoise would be able to take us down with either a Bubble or a Water Gun. However, something good did happen during the Koga battle. I did remember there was one more item we could pick up while we're in Fuchsia City, and normally it's the Good Rod. However, today, it's the secret key. So now, once we do defeat Koga, we will just be able to go straight over to Cinnabar Island. But that's not going to help us right now. However, the Good Rod reminded me of the Super Rod. So I go ahead and make my way over to that area to the east of Vermilion City, where the Snorlax was. I arrive to the house and talk to the guy who normally gives you the Super Rod. Today, he gives you the Silph Scope. And unfortunately, even though we have received Fly, we can't use it yet because we haven't beat Lieutenant Surge. Therefore, we actually have to walk all the way back to Lavender Town, where we can then enter the Pokemon Tower and work our way over to the top using our newly acquired Silph Scope to determine that the Marowak is now a Charmander, which can easily be taken down by an Earthquake. And then after defeating the rest of the Rockets over in the Pokemon Tower, we can then rescue Mr. Fuji, who typically gives you the Pokeflute. However, today he manages to give us Cut, the best HM in the game. Not for its sheer amount of strength. The move itself is actually terrible, but because of its utility, it allows us to move so many places and check so many things that it might as well be the most important item ever. But in order to make traveling around the world that much faster, we need to make our way over to Lieutenant Surge, who will again allow us to fly. So that will be pretty useful now that we can check a lot of things. Ironically enough, Lieutenant Surge actually starts out with his Pikachu. Go figure, probably 151 chance. But of course, he gets a Poliwag, but thanks to our nearly 2 times level difference, he's not going to be much of an issue and get ourselves an easy win. With access to Fly, we can now fly over to Pewter City and talk to the Oak's Aide that only requires 6 Pokemon. Normally, he gives you the HM for Flash, but today, he gives us Surf. but unfortunately we can't actually use Surf yet. We still need the badge from Koga. But before we get to Koga, we could get a little bit extra training in, battling Erica first. Luckily, because it took us so long to get the HM for Cut, we now have a 10 level advantage over Erica, and it's not too difficult to get through her entire team. Golduck could have been an issue because of our low speed, but luckily it doesn't learn any water moves until level 59. With the first 4 badges in hand, we have nowhere left to go but to battle Koga. But with extra levels this time around, we certainly should stand a better chance at winning. Mr. Mime goes down rather easily, but unfortunately Blastoise hits us with a water gun, and a critical hit no less. On the next attempt we make it right back to Blastoise where we get hit by a critical hit bubble, but we take down Blastoise, but unfortunately Primeape is still faster than us and hits us with a seismic toss. It doesn't really seem that Koga is in the cards, so it's probably about time that we go ahead and do some extra looking around. Knowing that there's a whole bunch of items out there that we can still go ahead and check, we can probably manage to come back at a slightly higher level. The first place to check is to go ahead and fly back to Pewter City where we can go ahead and check the Old Amber. Today, the Old Amber is going to be Flash. Now, all the way back at the beginning of the game, we talked to Oak's aide who normally gives us the item finder, and he gave us the SS ticket. Now, it's probably time to go ahead and see what is on the SS Sand. Luckily, we only have one battle to do, and it's going to be the rival, and you can probably imagine this one is not going to be much of a shock, as we can mow down his entire team using Body Slam. Even Kabuto didn't even stand a chance, despite being a resisted move just because of the big level difference. And the payoff for this battle is to talk to the captain, where he normally gives us Cut, but today he gives us Super Rod. So there's still more places to check, even though that one was a disappointment. Like, we still haven't talked to the lady who normally gives us Fly over at Celadon City, and now that we have Cut, we can finally get through the tree and talk to her. And instead of giving us Fly, she gives us the T. And the T gives us access to Saffron City. And because we beat the Rockets over at the Pokemon Tower, we can actually access Silphco and check the area where the card key usually is, as we already have it. And today, the card key is actually the Old Amber, which is quite useless, but we could take an attempt at Rival 5 to see how it goes. If we can't beat Koga, we probably can't beat Rival 5, but the extra XP might make a difference in the Koga battle. Or we could still battle the Rockets here in Silphco. The rival then starts off with a Dodrio, which makes perfect use of our Rock Slide move, then allowing us to move on to Dragonite, which also does not like Rock Slide. So our move coverage has been quite good. However, for Starmie, we're going to be outsped, and thanks to his good AI, he's going to hit us with a water gun. Luckily, we one-shot it, but as he throws out a second Starmie, we're doomed. Now, there's absolutely no way we're going to be able to beat Rival 5. In fact, we probably don't stand much of a chance against Koga either. This is when I had to make a decision. Since we've been picking up so many items throughout the game, including a few nuggets, we're then able to sell off all of our excess TMs, all of our excess nuggets, all of our excess healing items, and finally, we can then purchase 6 calcium. 6 calcium is not going to be enough to get us the victory here. In fact, I don't even think it's going to make much of a difference. But what 6 calcium will help us do is survive a bubble from Blastoise. So I decided to go back and try our luck at Koga. Unfortunately, we haven't gained any levels, but we have used the calcium, and that is enough to get us the one-shot on Mr. Mime. However, once we move on to Blastoise, Koga then decides to use an X attack, and we get a lucky crit on Blastoise, allowing us to move on to Primeape. Luckily, Primeape only uses his patented Seismic Toss. And from there, there's not much Venomoth can do but take a Rock Slide to get us a victory. Now, of course, this victory is not going to make much of a difference, especially against Rival 5. But with Koga defeated, we can now actually visit Cinnabar Island, and therefore battle Blaine's gym trainers. And the best part about Blaine's gym trainers is that they're completely optional. If I find a very difficult Pokemon that I can't deal with, like another Starmie or a Venusaur, we can just go ahead and skip them by answering the question correctly. However, before we do that, we're going to go ahead and go through the Pokemon Mansion to see what item lies ahead of us at the end. Normally, what is usually the secret key, today is the bike voucher, which is not going to have any use for us because we already checked and the bike voucher actually just gives us the item finder. so we can make our way towards Blaine's gym trainers. And in order to save you guys some time, I did run into troubles with one gym trainer. So here's that battle. Vileplume manages to survive an earthquake, then put us to sleep. And while we're asleep, we take one Petal Dance and get ourselves a loss. After that, it's pretty smooth sailing as we take down the rest of the gym trainers and we manage to gain 3 levels throughout his gym and arrive level 45. But the training didn't matter as we get one shot thanks to a Venusaur critical hit Razor Leaf. Now, I could probably have just tried my luck and gotten non-Razor Leaf attack as he's got 3 grass moves. However, I did notice that my speed was 77 to his 78. So if I can just gain 1 more level, I can probably outspeed and make the decision to go back outside and battle some of the trainers that are sitting out in the water. And I managed to come back 2 levels higher. But it turns out that the extra levels do not make a difference as we don't manage to one-shot the Venusaur and we still manage to be one-shot. In this lies a new problem. We can't beat Rival 5 with 2 Starmies, and we can't beat Blaine with a Venusaur. We've already defeated all of Blaine's trainers, so what else can we do? Well, we can definitely battle all of the Rockets still left in Silphco, and then hope from there that we can manage to get enough levels to be able to survive a few attacks. So, after doing exactly that, we battle basically every single trainer in Silphco, and decide to arrive back at Rival 5 at level 49 to give it another attempt. So, he starts off with his usual Dodrio, and we can take it down with a Rock Slide, moving on to Dragonite, which will also go down to a single Rock Slide. However, for Starmie, we now take less than half the amount of damage, which means if things go well, we'll be able to survive the next Starmie. And we do! Then we move on to Rapidash and it's weak to Earthquake. So we get ourselves the win, and thankfully, because we were starting to run out of things to do. From there, we can go ahead and beat up on Giovanni and move on. We could move to Sabrina, however, I did want to give Blaine another try at level 51. So he starts off with his usual Venusaur, now we outspeed and we one-shot, which takes us to Dodrio, which we already know we can one-shot with Rock Slide, taking us to Vileplume. However, Vileplume does have Petal Dance. Luckily, it's one-shot, and Charizard's probably one of the easiest Pokemon for Rhydon to defeat. And now, with that badge in hand, we now can survive special attacks just a little bit more with the special badge boost. But more importantly, we now only have 2 places left to check, and we have all of the special items we need to beat the game. So with that said, we only have battles from here on out. Starting with Sabrina. Sabrina clearly swapped her Venomoth for a Butterfree, which is quite the upgrade considering they both go down to Rock Slide. Luckily, Aerodactyl is next, and it goes down to a Rock Slide without confusing us, bringing us to Exeggutor, which could have been a problem if it had used Hypnosis. Luckily, a Stomp won't do much, taking us to Hitmonchan, which is an easy one-shot with Earthquake. It's nice finally being able to actually get a first-try victory considering we've gone through so many hardships up to this point. And before we make it to Giovanni, I make sure to battle all of his gym trainers first, so we can get just an extra bit of levels, as we're probably going to need it for some fast water types that we'll be seeing most likely in the Elite Four. But before we get to the Elite Four, we need to beat up on Giovanni, which, as long as he keeps on putting out Pokemon like Kangaskhan and Rhydon, we're probably going to have a good shot. Until, of course, he throws out a Poliwrath and I don't manage to take it out in one hit. Luckily, it only knows Water Gun, its special isn't very high, taking us to Hitmonchan, which goes down to an Earthquake, followed by a Magneton, which is extremely weak to Earthquake, giving us only 6 battles left before we finally beat the game. However, of course, at level 55, most likely we're gonna run into an issue, but we won't know until we finally find one. So we'll go ahead and battle Rival 6 to see how that goes. I really like how the randomizer manages to randomize his team except for his starter. It feels really realistic being able to battle a different team every time. This is how I imagined Gary Oak in the real anime, as most likely he was probably going around catching loads of Pokemon and actually training them. Like good Pokemon too, like Gengar, Golem, Raichu, Venomoth, Magneton. They're all very diverse options, and you probably don't get to see that very often. Luckily, none of them were Staryu or Venusaur, clearly our bane of this run. I managed to take out all of the necessary items from the PC to make sure that we stand a good chance at defeating the Elite Four, buy a handful of full restores, and we make our way towards Lorelei. Lorelei then starts off with a Porygon, which is a first. I don't think I've ever seen a trainer use a Porygon before, but it wasn't much of an issue. Then we move on to Nidoking, which goes down to an Earthquake, followed by Eradicate that uses Hyper Fang instead of Super Fang for some reason. Then Cloyster, which uses Clamp, Luckily, it only hits twice, allowing us to take down Cloyster with a Rock Slide, but she then has another Cloyster, and this does not look good for us as she takes us down with an Aurora Beam. Seeing just how close I am to a level up, it's just not worth using a rare candy right now. So I do just a wee bit of leveling up in Victory Road and manage to come back. But of course, one level wasn't going to make all the difference against 2 Cloysters. No. She then takes us out with another Clamp. Now, I don't know what got in my thick skull. I probably was just a little bit hard-headed. However, I just did not want to give up. So I battled her a few more times until I got to this attempt where I get pretty lucky that she uses a super potion allowing me to get a victory. Now, because this is a randomizer, I still don't know what's going to lie ahead of me, but there is a good chance that maybe she was just going to be the most difficult battle. So I move on to Bruno to see how this battle's going to go. And he decides to start off with a Wheezing, which is pretty good as we can take it down with an Earthquake, no problem. Followed by Arcanine, which is also weak to an Earthquake, taking us to Parasect, which we have Rock Slide for, so no problems there. Followed by Kabuto, which we can use an Earthquake for, and lastly, Poliwrath. We haven't been able to take a Poliwrath down in one hit yet, however, he does use a Body Slam, which gives us another chance at victory, and we take it. I guess regardless of what reality we're in, Bruno is still bad. However, who knows, Agatha might also be pretty easy. Let's go ahead and see how this one's going to turn out. As Agatha then starts off with Bruno's Hitmonchan. Unfortunately for her, Hitmonchan is still bad in whatever reality we're in. So Flareon goes down, followed by Gyarados, which is going to be weak to a Rock Slide. We definitely dodged a bullet on that one. Then Hypno is going to be okay against us, but still not great. Then lastly, we have Arcanine, which, of course, no Arcanine has been able to survive an Earthquake so far. So this is actually going quite good as we make it to Lance without too many issues past Lorelei. And things continue to look pretty good as he starts off with a Pidgeot, which of course we're going to take down with a Rock Slide, and takes us to Vaporeon, which unfortunately knows Hydro Pump, and survives. Luckily we get a second shot, but it's not a range and we get hit by a Hydro Pump. Now after what happened with Lorelei, you can probably imagine I went super stubborn with this battle, because Hydro Pump has a 20% chance of missing. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep on trying to fish for that miss. Unfortunately, it doesn't manage to come. However, after 3 losses, we finally get to move on to this attempt. After 20 losses, we finally get an attempt where she uses Mist, which is actually quite good, as it's basically just the guard spec, but a move. Then we get to move on to Venomoth. Unfortunately, we get paralyzed from Venomoth, and now we're going to be outsped by every single Pokemon. Which is fine, because we're going to move on, and that's all that matters right now. And Dragonite has only got Dragon Rage and Slam, which aren't going to be the greatest of moves against us. However, Slowbro does have Water Gun, and this could go poorly and does. Now, instead of going back and training, it's probably just better to continue fishing for that miss, as we probably can deal with Slowbro if we get lucky enough. And what do you know, on the very next attempt, he uses Mist again and we can get past, and now we're going against Dragonite, but this time without being fully paralyzed. So we're going to be faster than Slowbro, and Slowbro doesn't use a Withdraw, allowing us to take it down on the next attack, which takes us to the champion, where we have no idea about any of his Pokemon other than Rapidash. They're going to be the highest level Pokemon in the game, with probably the best stats, so fingers crossed it goes well. He then starts off with a Wigglytuff, which is probably pretty good for us considering if you look at its moveset, it has no good moves, and it only disables Stomp, which we're not even going to use anyways. Then we move on to Hypno, which has Psychic, and could give us a special drop, which would be a problem. Luckily, it doesn't, and we can take down Flareon with the next Earthquake, taking us to Vileplume, which still has Petal Dance on its moveset, so this one could get nasty. And it uses Petal Dance, it takes us out in one hit. After knowing what the final battle was going to include, and Stomp being disabled, I decide to teach Blizzard for Vileplume, attempting for that Freeze. Luckily, on the first attempt, we managed to get a Freeze, and we can move on and see his next Pokemon, which is a Blastoise. However, Blastoise is faster than us, and can take us down in one hit. Unfortunately, Stubborn Mode then finally kicks in, and you would think that I would probably learn my lesson, as being able to dodge a 100% accurate Petal Dance and an 80% accurate Hydro Pump is probably going to be impossible. And you know what? On the next attempt, where we manage to get a critical hit on the Vileplume and take it down in one hit, Blastoise then does not miss a Hydro Pump, and we get taken down in one hit. After that, we make one more attempt where we manage to actually take down Vileplume. Then, of course, on cue, Blastoise does not miss a Hydro Pump, even after using all of our rare candies. So now we have to backtrack and train. Unfortunately, there just aren't very many trainers left to train against. So, as a joke, I go up to Moltres, which happens to be a Sandshrew. So I get my laughs, my chat gets some laughs, we take down the Sandshrew, we get a little bit more training and decide, if we have to beat the Elite Four one more time, we'll probably gain a few levels in the process. Luckily, with enough levels under our belt, we can take down Lorelei, Bruno, Agatha, Lance, and make it right back to the champion without too many issues. Now at level 67, we should hopefully stand a chance at least taking down one of his two Pokemon, trying to go for luck on the other one. And also, we can now take down the rest of his Pokemon, meaning we can go into the Vileplume with full HP. And luckily for us, Vileplume does in fact go down to a single Earthquake, allowing us to try and get that super lucky Hydro Pump miss. But it doesn't matter as we managed to get a crit, something I did not plan for, meaning we can move on and take down Rapidash in a single hit, making us the champion of the Pokemon League and the winner of my first ever randomizer. But it's not over yet, as my YouTube live chat wanted to know, did that crit on Blastoise matter? So I decided to reset the game and check, and it turns out it did, because it managed to knock us out with a single Hydro Pump. Anyways, I really hope that you liked the randomizer series. Since then, I've completed 10 randomizers in total. If you wanted to know, you can check them out on my YouTube live section of my channel, where I've completed Rhydon, Tentacruel, Arbok, Hitmonlee, Jolteon, Gengar, Kingler, Vileplume, Vaporeon, and Executor. Now, of course, because of the random nature, I can't really give them a tier ranking, but I can just give them an overall ranking. And if you want to check out the overall rankings, make sure to check out one of my videos. But I don't want to spoil the rankings for you on this one. If you like this kind of content, make sure to check out my Patreon page, where we have one new Articuno member tier, Chase Duke. So big thanks to Speedrunner, Wired Squid, John Hughes, and Chase Duke. Thank you guys for watching. Have a nice night.